The engine under your truck's hood may have already failed once. You just do not know it yet. In 2011, Ford made a decision that would affect millions of American truck buyers. They pulled the naturally aspirated V8 from their best-selling F-150 and replaced it with a twin-turbocharged V6. They called it EcoBoost. They called it Progress. The ads showed dust clouds and towing capacity numbers. Nobody showed you the repair bills. Since that moment, every major automaker has followed. GM, Ram, Toyota. They all moved toward smaller, force-fed engines in their flagship trucks. The industry called it downsizing. They said it was about efficiency. They said you would never notice the difference. You noticed. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly what to do about it. Here is what the industry told you. A twin-turbocharged V6 produces the same horsepower as a V8. It gets better fuel economy. It is lighter, which improves handling. The technology has matured. You are getting more for less. Here is what is actually true. The average turbocharged engine carries repair costs 37% higher than its naturally aspirated equivalent over a 10-year ownership window. That number comes from real-world warranty data, independent repair databases, and owner surveys compiled between 2014 and 2023. It is not a fringe statistic. It is the number the dealership finance office is quietly counting on. The 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6 became the best-selling truck engine in American history almost overnight. By 2015, more than 40% of all F-150 buyers were choosing it over every other option. Ford had engineered a masterpiece of marketing. Sure, the truck felt fast. The window sticker looked efficient. The problems arrived later, usually just after the warranty expired. And that timing is not an accident. The original 3.5 EcoBoost had a well-documented carbon buildup problem. On direct injection engines, fuel never washes the intake valves. Carbon accumulates. Power drops. Rough idle sets in. A professional walnut blasting service to clean those valves costs between $400 and $800. Ford knew about this. The fix existed. They did not include it in the base design. Then there were the coolant intrusion failures on early EcoBoost engines. Head gasket degradation allowed coolant to enter combustion chambers. This was not a fringe failure. NHTSA opened an investigation. Class action lawsuits were filed. The owners of 2010 through 2013 model year vehicles reported sudden power loss, white exhaust smoke, and engine damage. Some replacement costs exceeded $10,000 out of pocket after warranty coverage was denied. Ford sold over 300,000 EcoBoost-equipped vehicles before the scale of the problem became undeniable. But it gets worse. The turbocharger itself is a component that operates at temperatures exceeding 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. It spins at up to 200,000 revolutions per minute. It requires a constant, clean supply of oil to survive. In a naturally aspirated V8, there are no turbos. There is no intercooler system. There is no wastegate. There are no boost solenoids. There are no charged air pipes that crack under heat cycling after 5 winters. Every one of those components is an additional failure point on a turbocharged engine. Or every one of them costs money when it fails, and they fail more often than the automakers projected, or at least more often than they told you. Here is where it gets interesting. The EPA fuel economy ratings that sold these engines to the American public were tested on a dynamometer, in a laboratory, at a controlled temperature, with a specific testing protocol that does not reflect how a truck owner actually drives. Real-world fuel economy for the 3.5-liter EcoBoost in towing conditions consistently falls 20 to 30% below the EPA estimate. When you are pulling a trailer at highway speed, those turbos are working at maximum load. Fuel consumption spikes. The efficiency advantage, the entire justification for the switch, largely disappears under the exact conditions truck buyers need most. The Consumer Reports noted this gap as early as 2012. Multiple independent automotive journalists confirmed it through real-world testing. The EPA has since updated its methodology. The damage to the buyer's wallet had already been done, and this is the part they really do not want you to see. The switch to turbocharged engines was not primarily about fuel economy. It was about corporate average fuel economy standards, CAFE standards, set by the federal government. Automakers are required to meet fleet-wide fuel efficiency targets or pay significant fines. A turbocharged engine that tests well in a lab setting improves the fleet average on paper. Whether it actually saves the truck owner money at the pump over a decade of ownership is a separate question. A question nobody in the marketing department was paid to answer. Ford, GM, and Stellantis collectively saved hundreds of millions of dollars in CAFE compliance penalties by transitioning their truck lineups to forced induction. The cost of that transition was passed directly to the consumer, in purchase price premiums, in complexity, and in long-term repair exposure. You paid for their compliance strategy. You were told it was a gift. There is a second betrayal layered underneath the first one. The V8 engine is not obsolete. It was not retired because it was inferior. A well-built pushrod V8, like the 5.3-liter or 6.2-liter GM units, has a parts ecosystem that is 50 years deep. A naturally aspirated V8, with a well-maintained cooling system and regular oil changes, will routinely reach 250,000 to 300,000 miles with no catastrophic failures. The architecture is proven, understood, and repairable by any competent mechanic in any town in America. A twin-turbocharged V6 with direct injection, variable valve timing, and integrated exhaust manifolds requires specialized diagnostic equipment to service properly. It requires turbo oil feed lines to be inspected. It requires specific oil viscosity to protect turbo bearings during cold starts. It requires the driver to let the engine idle briefly before shutoff to allow turbo temperatures to normalize. A practice most truck owners have never been told about, and almost none follow. The complexity was not engineered in for your benefit. It was engineered in to serve a regulatory framework and a profit model that depends on service revenue. So here is what you actually do about it. If you are buying a truck today, and the engine decision is the most important decision you will make. Not the trim level, not the interior package, the engine. The GM 5.3-liter V8, available in the Silverado and Sierra, remains one of the most reliable truck engines on the market. It is naturally aspirated. It runs on conventional oil change intervals. It does not have turbochargers to fail, intercoolers to leak, or boost systems to diagnose. Owner data across model years 2014 through 2023 consistently shows lower major repair rates compared to equivalent turbocharged competitors. If you are buying a half-ton, this engine belongs on your short list. The 6.2-liter V8 option in both GM and Ford applications carries a price premium but delivers reserves of capacity that do not require the engine to operate near maximum output under towing loads. A larger displacement engine working at 60% of its capability will outlast a smaller engine working at 95%. Displacement is not a dirty word. It is physics. If you are specifically considering the Ford F-150 and want the EcoBoost, Avoid the 2011 through 2013 model years entirely. The 2017 and newer third-generation 3.5 EcoBoost addressed many of the original failures through port injection added alongside the direct injection system. It is a better engine than its predecessor. It is still more complex than a V8. Know what you are accepting. For used truck buyers, pull the VIN and run it through NHTSA's complaint database before you sign anything. Search the specific engine code, not just the model. A filter by complaints filed in years 3 through 7 of the vehicle's life. That is when warranty-suppressed failures start appearing in the public record. What you find will tell you more than the Carfax ever will.